Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So for last week, I actually didn't upload anything because I was busy selling my properties. It actually sold within the week. So for this week, I want to make a video talking about my experience selling in a down market and what went through my head, why I decided to sell it at the end, and then also some tips and tricks that you can make use of if you're thinking about selling your home in a down market as well, or just in any kind of market. Now, before we start, if you haven't already, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. And also, we have a private Facebook group where you can join and ask extra questions or get extra resources. So you can find the link to join in the description below. All right, without further ado, let's jump into today's video. Alright, so basically I wanted to test selling my properties because I have another one that is completing in about 2 months, and I wasn't a big fan of holding 2 properties at the same time, which I will explain more later on. So I decided to test the market to see whether I can sell it at an ideal price or maybe I need to rent it out. The end result is that I actually ended up selling within 4 days, and the final price is $1,000 off of my ideal price with a no subject offer, no financing, not even inspection, which is fantastic and very rare during these kind of markets. So at the end, I was super happy with the result, and that's what I want to share today and go through some process that we went through, and then at the end share some of my opinion and thinkings. Alright, so let's jump into it. And basically there are 3 stages that you need to go through when you're selling your properties. The first one is your research phase. Now here is where we want to find out a sale price that makes sense so we can list at. You may think this is very easy to find out this kind of price, but actually I see a lot of sellers making this mistake. They go by gut feeling, or they use outdated or non-applicable comparables, and they end up with unrealistic prices, especially in these kind of markets. So what we did here is start with comparables first, and then we want to apply current environment to the available data. Now, there are 2 major sources that you can look at when it comes to comparables. The first one is your realtor, and the second one are third-party websites like BC Condos and Homes or condos.ca for Ontario. So for example, BC Condos and Home, if I come here, it has actually a very good filter that allows you to narrow down your property's age, the square footage, the pricing, etc., and then show you all the active buildings or just show you all the ones that have been sold. So from there, you are able to find a good comparable and have an idea of what people are selling around you. Now, another example on screen would be something that I done recently with my client. This is not for sale purpose, it's more for tax purpose. But same thing, we looked at comparables using condos.ca on their Ontario home. Not only were we able to find comparables on their building, we were able to find a comparable on similar building on the same block with similar age and kind of floor plan, which gives them very valuable data if they want to have more data points. So for me here, we actually took a quick look at the comparable, but to be honest, my realtor has been pretty good with her researches all the time, every time I buy and sell something. So I usually don't spend too much time here, but if you want more data points to work with, you can check out these kind of websites. Now this brings me to the second part, which is your realtor. They should be pulling up your building or surrounding sale history, including the list and ask prices, so you have an idea what people were actually selling at and what were being listed but got no offer or ended up not going through. Now, for example here, I saw that my neighbor actually sold for 1.14 mil back in March 2022, but they're 53 square foot smaller. If we take their price times the square footage of our properties, then we should expect a 1.18 mil at that time if we were to sell it at the same time. However, this is what I meant by outdated comparables. This sale was back in March, which in normal times, 6 months is a good time frame to use as a reference. But we're not in normal times right now. We're going through major rate hikes in these 6 months. So realistically, we should expect something lower than 1.18 mil, obviously. But just how much lower should we expect? Now here is where when I scanned the list at the same time, I saw a 2-bedroom on the 14th floor of my building, which sold for $802 per square foot. Now if I compare this to my neighbors, this is actually 4.3% lower after 5 months. This actually signals to me that the price pressure is not as big on my condo versus overall stat in Burnaby, which for example, if you check ZOD, is a lot more than 4.3%. And the fact that it is on the 14th floor, whereas mine is way higher than 14th floor, so in my head, I think my unit can ask for more per square foot. Now, at the end, we can narrow it down to 1.14 to 1.15 mil, which would be around 2 to 3% discount versus what my neighbor sold for in March. Now, once we have that, it's time for the second step, which is to strategize. So I let my realtor know 1.14 to 1.15 mil is a good price that we want to sell at, with 1.14 being good and 1.15 being kind of like a dream price. For first-time sellers, here's something you need to keep in mind. You never ever want to list as your intended sale price in these kind of markets, because every buyer expects to come in for a discount. So you need to list a little bit higher to create some room for them to feel like they got a good price, got a good discount. Same idea if you are trying to list at a hot market. You never want to list at the very high price that you expect to sell at, even though everybody is fighting for it. You always want to start a little bit lower, so they feel like this is going to be a good deal. They're walking in, there's a lot of people bidding, and the people get emotional, they're bidding higher. Now again, I don't like this system, but this is usually how it goes in these kind of different markets. With that in mind, my realtor suggested we start at 1.158 mil, which is fine. And so we listed at that, and then once we get offer, then we will go into the third step, which is negotiation. Now this, I would think, is the hardest part for most sellers in these kind of markets, because they tend to buckle when they start getting very low offers. So for us, actually, it's the same case. Our first offer is 1.06 mil, which was obviously a low ball offer. It's way lower than what we listed for, but this is to be expected. I see sellers, like new sellers especially, sometimes get very emotional or offended even, because they see these lowball offers and they feel like it's very insulting, and they just straight up don't even want to counter. They're just going to ignore this person. Now, I would highly recommend you don't do this, especially in these kind of market, because number one, lowball offer is to be expected. And number two, you don't know how bad this person wants your property. Maybe they lowballing you, but they actually really want it and they're willing to pay a lot higher as long as you counter. So we actually counter with 1.15 mil, and you will notice it's just a tiny bit lower than the 1.158. This does two things. Number one is it kept us at my range of ideal price. And number two is a signal to them that we're not interested to entertain their lowball offer. They would have to come up with something more realistic. After a day, they came back with 1.1 mil and said they cannot go higher. Now, here again is sometimes sellers will hear this and they might waver because they start questioning if their pricing strategy was actually correct in the first place. Are they being unrealistic? What if there's no offer after this? And etc. And they may be tempted to take these kind of price because it's not super low. It's not as low as the first one. It's kind of high enough to be in the acceptable range. So here, I would urge you to calm down and then think about your own situation, and also ask yourself, how motivated are you to sell right now? So for me, I basically did my math on the side and reviewed my situation. Here's my considerations. Number one, right now I have to choose, do I want to hold two properties? And if I hold two, then obviously I have to rent this current one out. And at the same time, I have a bunch of extra costs I would have to take on. So on the screen, you will see these are all the costs I would have to pay, but only some of them are truly extra because some of them I would have to pay anyway regardless. So here, I have isolated all the actual extra costs I would have to pay by holding two properties. And also keep in mind that some are tax deductible because they're for rental purpose, while as others, for example, my new mortgage interest cost on my next property will not be tax deductible because it's for my principal home. This is going to affect my calculation, so keep that in mind. Now next is to find our potential rent. So here my realtor did some work again, and we can safely estimate that $3,800 to $4,000 a month is a good range we can rent out at. Now, I'm not going to go into the math in super detail because it only applies to me here, but my conclusion is this. For the months that I am selling and not renting, by holding two properties, it is going to cost me $4,000 extra in cost every month. For the months that I start renting it out at my estimated price, I would still need to come up with $1,500 to $2,000 extra cost on top of my rent, because in this kind of environment, there's no way my rent can cover everything. So with these estimates, I know that today, I don't need to take the 1.1 mil offer because it is 30,000 lower than the 1.14 mil. This is actually equivalent to 15 to 20 months of renting, because remember, every month I rent, I have to fork out $1,500 to $2,000. So what that means is I am only better off to take this $30K discount today if I foresee myself to hold two properties, to rent it out for that long, and then I still only sell it at 1.14 mil or lower. Only then would I be better off taking that 1.1 mil today, which in my opinion, I don't think is going to be the case. I personally do not see interest rate pressure lasting 2 years from today. We're already 8 or 9 months into rate hikes already. That would be 3 years of continuous rate hikes or very high interest rate environment, which I don't think the economy can take. So I expect a rate drop to happen within 3 years, which from what we can see during the FOMO period, house prices should go up. So knowing this, I relay my thinking to my realtor just so she fully understands where I'm coming from. And so she can use these kind of thinkings to let the buyer agent know that we are not a very motivated seller, so we're unlikely going to take this discount. So what ends up happening is in the end, they came back with 1.125 mil, and this is basically a done deal, 15K away from our goal, and this is close enough that my realtor can do her magic and bring us there. So at the end, it was a 1.139 mil with no subject offer, which I think is excellent. And this kind of no subject clause is well worth the extra 1K discount that we give to the buyer. So in the end, this is what happened in these 4 days. There were some negotiation, some calculation that went back and forth, but very happy with the result. And here is where I want to share some tips and recommendations that can help you to sell your property at a better price, sell it faster, and have the whole thing go smoother, especially during these down markets. So number one, my tip is obviously work with a good realtor. Now I know a lot of people like to, make fun of realtors and say they're useless and just kind of like a prop here to, get commission. I absolutely think this is not the case when you find a good one. So for example, the person I use is Carolyn. She is great, and for the past couple of years, every time I buy or sell something, I've always been able to get it done within days, and always at a price that I'm very happy with, no matter if I'm the buyer side or the seller side. And she also has a team to back her up, because in fact, during this kind of process, she was unavailable physically due to personal matter, but her team was able to set everything up for me during open house and also get everything done within 1 week since I told her I am interested to sell. She was able to set everything up for me. Now, second tip is to pack your things as much as possible before you do open house or before you take pictures, so you're able to create a very spacious and clean area for your buyers. Now here, you don't need to hide everything. We basically had boxes everywhere around the house, like you can see some are stacking very high, but we just want to pack away everything that we don't want people to touch coming into our home, that we don't feel comfortable, and which also can help people to better visualize their space. You do also want to leave a little bit of furniture, don't have it super empty, just so people again can visualize where they can put their dining table and all that stuff. But yeah, make sure you hide as much things as possible, like behind closet, in boxes. This can really help your sale process. Now, the third tip is actually to get a 3D scan of your home. This is something that is included with my realtor every time I list something, and I think it's a big plus. However, when I go online, I still see many sellers don't do this, and I think it's a missed opportunity. 3D scan can really help you attract people to come in, the serious buyers, and also filter out the people that are not so serious, because before they come in, they will able to see basically the whole house visualized. And somebody, for example, is not going to drive all the way from Delta into my Burnaby home to look at it if they're not super serious, and if they saw the 3D scan and they don't really like my property. So I feel like 3D scan is a very big plus when it comes to selling home. Make sure you get one or work with a realtor that does include one. Now, fourth tip is to stay realistic about your situation. So like I said, work with facts and numbers, and don't work based on emotions. It doesn't matter how much you love your property, how much work you put into it while you're living there. If numbers don't support the price, then it's just not gonna happen. At the same time, if you have your facts straight, you know where you are, don't waver just because somebody lowball you or telling you that it won't sell. If you have done your homework, stick to your findings. And finally, do not forget your opportunity cost. Be mindful of the pros and cons of holding a property versus taking a discount. I looked at the rental cost like I showed you, but it wasn't just about that. There were other considerations I had to take into account when I were thinking about should I take discounts or not. So for example, tax filing is going to be super tedious when I file my tax by holding a rental property. I've done it in the past. I don't like it at all. That's also a good motivation for me to sell it quicker. And also my property is 15 years old right now. So while there's not a huge problem right now, it is reaching to the point where there could be some fixes coming down the road or more aggressive strata increase. So all those are potential costs. So you really have to be clear about your numbers and revisit your situation every time you get an offer. Alright, so that's everything I want to share for this week. If you like what I'm talking about, make sure you hit the like button once. If you don't like them, make sure you hit the dislike button twice. Next one I want to hear from you is, are you selling your property during downtime, or are you thinking about selling one, or you know someone that is? Let me know what kind of experience you're receiving. Is it good? Is it bad? Let me know everything in the comment down below. As always, if you like these kind of videos, I do upload them 8:30 EST every Tuesday. So make sure you like the video and subscribe to my channel. Click the bell button to get all the notifications in the future. Alright, this is Jacky. I hope you found this interesting. I'll see you next week. Bye!